Hi everyone, so in this video I'll show you how you can implement infinite scrolling system in React. So before jumping into the code, so let's see how what are the applications that we'll be building today. Okay, so this is the application that we'll be building today. If you refresh the screen, you can see there was a loading animation, and after that the data is being loaded. Now as we scroll down to the page, when we will reach the bottom of the page, then it will make a new API call and it will load the next data. Okay, so let me go to the down of the page. There is a loading animation as you see, and then after that is loaded the data from the next page. So like that, this way you can go to the next page and it will continue to the loading the data. So this feature is actually known as the infinite scrolling system, and you might have seen it. It is already present in different social media apps like Facebook or Instagram. So where if you scroll the news feed, then you can see that when you reach to the bottom of the page, then some new data automatically gets loaded. So that gives a smoother user experience to the user. So now let's see how we can build this thing using React. Okay, so in this case we will be using this API. You can see this API we will be using here. So this API actually takes two parameters. One is the page, another is the size. So we will not be making changes in the size, but we will be making changes in the page. That means currently we are in page 1, so it is fetching some data. Now if we change it to page 2, then hit the endpoint, then it is generating some new data. So like that we will be changing the page number, and then it will generate new data for us, and then that we will use that and we will display the data in the view. Okay, so I have opened VS Code and I have created a new blank React project using Vite. Okay, and I have started the local project in local server. So if you go back to browser page, if you refresh this screen, then you can see that we are getting hello world. So the local server is running for the project. So now we will start writing code. So first of all, we need a state where we can store the data that we are getting from the API. So let's create a state. And we also will create a loading state. So that will basically tell us if the data is loading or loading is completed. So we will create a loading state as well, and we will initialize its value as true. Now let me set it as false. And you can see like we have created a state called data, and we have initialized its value as an empty array. Now we need another state where we will store the page number. So current page that we are currently in. So let me create that. So for the starting part, we will be in the page 1. Now we will create a useEffect hook, and inside that we will be fetching the data. And inside that, let me create a function that will fetch the data. Okay, so we have this is the URL API endpoint, and we have made that page number as dynamic. And now we want to store that data inside the data state, this thing. So let's do that. So we have stored the data inside the data, and we have written like this because we want the previous data also to be stored. So we don't want the so basically whatever new response that will be coming, we don't want it to be entirely remove the old data. So okay, so we want it to be appended along with the old data. Okay, so that's why we have written it like this. Okay, and here, so before data loading start, we want to make it as set loading as true, and now just here we want to make it as set loading as false. Okay, and finally we want to call this function fetch data, and also we pass a dependency here known as page number. So whenever the page number changes, we want this function to be running. So now we need to find out like if the user has scrolled down to the end of the page or not. So basically whenever user has scrolled down to the end of the page, then only we want to make a new API call and get the data from the next page. Okay, so here we have to write a function that will basically check if the user has scrolled to the end of the page. So let's write that. Okay, so here we have created three variables, that is scroll top, scroll height, and client height. So basically what it will do that, so the first thing is like it is scroll top. So that is basically height of the area already scrolled. So I'll give you an example. So if we search for React here, then you can see I am scrolling down. So you can see in this part that I've already scrolled, that I've already gone to the upper side of the screen, that is basically, that is what is this thing, scroll top. Okay, this part that user has already scrolled, that is the scroll part, like, which means this part up to here to here. Okay, and now comes the scroll height. Okay, so scroll height means that the entire page height. Okay, so entire page, like this entire thing from top to bottom, absolute bottom. So this entire thing is known as, this scroll height. And the client height is basically, it is the current window. So if you see the current window, I am in from here to here. So this part is known as the client height. Okay, so basically so now using these three, how do you check if the user has gone to the end of the page? Okay, so this is the condition. You can see this condition will be fulfilled when the user has scrolled to the end of that page. So that means the scroll top, that means which is basically this part, that part that user already scrolled, this part plus the client height, that means the current window from here to here, this part, this will exceed the scroll height, that means the entire height of the page. So this is the condition to check if the user has scrolled down to the end of the page or not. Okay, and whenever the user has gone to the end of this page, so we want basically to fetch data from the next page, and for that what we will do is that we will just increase the page number. So let's do that. Okay, so basically we increase the page number, and what it will do is this, like you can see that the page number is a state. So that means when the page number increases, then the component will re-render. Okay, so yeah, there's that. And one more thing we need to do is that we have to attach this handle scroll function with the scroll event of that page. So let's do that. Okay, so we have attached that, and we have to clean up the remove event listener as well. So we did that as well, and we want it to run when the page number changes. Okay, now I think we should be good to go. So now we should be having that data in the data state. So let's do that. Let's check if we are getting the data in the data or not. Okay, so I'll just console log here, and let me go back to this page, and if we refresh this page, yeah, we can see the data is being populated in the console. Okay, so that's good. Okay, so now we can map through that data and show it in the screen. So let's do that. Okay, so we have pasted some code here, and now if we check, yeah, okay, so I'll just quickly go through what we have done. So basically we are checking if the data exists, and if the data exists, then we are mapping through that data, and we are getting the item, and in the item we have some properties like ID, name, and trips. I'll just show you. If you check in the console, let me just, so yeah, so we have the data. Now if you expand individual item, there you can see we have some data called name, we have ID, and we have trips. So we'll be using that. So that's what we have done. So we are logging we are printing the ID, name, and trips. And I have given a random key value here just to avoid that warning that React provides you, like if you don't provide any key, then React will complain that you should provide a key attribute and attach some value to that attribute which is unique. Okay, so that's why, to avoid that warning, we have included this line. Okay, and as I already said, like we are printing the ID, name, and all those things. And let me remove this line, and here I have attached a class name. I have given it a class called container, and if we see in the container, we have in the app.css file, we have given some styling in the container. Okay, so yeah, so here is the container. So we have just given some basic styling. just to it will be easier for you to see like the component in the screen in a better way. Okay, so now let's test the code if it is working fine or not. Okay, so let's go back to browser. So I was having some issue with my Chrome browser, so I have switched back to the Microsoft Edge. So let's see. Let me refresh the screen and we are seeing some data. Let me go to the down of the page, and as soon as we go to the bottom of the page, you can see, yeah, so it is loading new request. Yeah, it is working. So you can see on the right side also, you can see the page number also getting increased. Okay, so first it was page 4, then the page number has been increased to page 5. Now if we go to the down of the screen, it is page 6. So that means whenever the user is going to the bottom of the page, then the page number is been increased, and since the page number is increasing, that means it is fetching new data from the API and it is showing that in the screen. Okay, so yeah, it is working fine. So we want to do one more thing, is that when we refresh the screen, we don't see any loading animation as such, or when we go to the bottom of the page, then also we don't see any loading animation as such. So let me add a simple loading animation. Okay, so in order to add loading animation, so what I will do is that I will add a loading text here. So let me do that, and I will give it a class name as loader, and in the app.css file I have written some styling here. So this is basically for the loading only. So I have written some styling to style the loader, and I also written an animation. So actually we want to show the loading only when the loading is true, then we want to show the loading, and we will add a class name as loader. And now let's check in the code if it is working fine or not. Okay, let me refresh the screen. Actually it is not showing anything, maybe there is some problem. Okay, actually we did it is loading, so we have to write it here is loading. Okay, is loading, and let's check. Okay, let me refresh the screen, and yeah, you can see like when the initially we are seeing a loading animation, and if we go to the bottom, yeah, then also we are seeing a loading animation. Yes, yeah, so yes, we are seeing the loading animation. So basically the API is like in this example the API is working properly. That means the API response is not taking much time, that's why you are not able to see the loading thing properly. So let me add some fake delay in the code so that you can see. Okay, so basically I will add a set timeout here, and I will make it this 1500 millisecond, and inside that I will call the fetch data. Okay, yeah, now let's check in the code. Okay, if we refresh the screen, so you can see the loading thing here. Now if we go down to the page, you can see the loading is showing, and after that the data is being loaded. And yeah, yes, and yes, so the loading is working properly. And on the right side of the screen also you can see that whenever we are going to the bottom of the page, that means when we are getting to the end of the page, a new API request is being made from the API. As you can see, the page number is increasing, and the data from the next page in the API is being fetched, and then we are showing it in the screen. So this was a simple example of how you can implement infinite scroll in React. Okay, so just giving a go through like overview of the code. So basically what we are doing is that we are creating a state. We are storing the data in the data state, and then we are creating an useEffect hook, and inside that we will make the API call, and then we will store the data in the data. And then we have basically we have now we have to check if the user has reached to the end of the page or not. So whenever the user reaches to the end of the page, then we want to make the API call once again. Okay, and for that what we have done, we have created a function called handle scroll, and then we have checked if the user has reached to the end of that page, and if the user has reached to the end of the page, then we increase the page number, and when we increase the page number, that makes a new API call because the page number is stored in the state, and then we get the new data, and then we are showing the data in the screen. And we have mapped to that data variable, and we are just showing that data in the screen. and after that we have added a loader basically, and in the loader we have added some basic styling. In the app.css file you can see we have added this basic styling here for that, and this is responsible for the loading. And so the just so that you can see the cards basically, these cards, if you can see that cards properly, for that I have just added a basic styling here. So I hope this video was useful to you and you have gotten good idea about how you can implement infinite scroll using React. So yeah, that's it from my end. Thanks for watching.